A real catastrophe is unfolding in the Middle East, and the blockade of the Hormuz Strait might seem like just the beginning. After the Hormuz Strait, global trade could lose another crucial waterway because of the war in Iran. A high-ranking representative of the Yemeni Houthis stated that the group is ready to block the Bab-el-Mandeb Strait, which connects the Red Sea with the Gulf of Aden, to support Iran in this war. In this case, both commercial vessels and warships, including aircraft carriers heading toward American or Israeli territories, would be subject to the blockade. And now experts are saying that a war against Iran and its economic consequences could deal a serious blow to US President Donald Trump. But Trump still hasn't understood what's happening, as he is still elated by his victory. He was confident about Venezuela, and he remains confident that it will work out the same way in Iran. But blocking two straits in the Middle East at once could really become a big problem and even a catastrophe. Let's figure it out. I'm Alexei Pecci. Let's discuss this topic. But before we start this episode, I ask you to subscribe to this channel, like the episode, and leave any comment under this video. And be sure to subscribe to my Telegram channel, Pecci News. The link is in the description of this video. So, in the Middle East, a total blockade of the world's most important trade routes is possible. After the Strait of Hormuz, global trade may lose another important waterway. A high-ranking representative of the Ansar Allah armed group, Abd al-Tawer, stated that the Yemeni Houthis are ready to block the Bab-el-Mandeb Strait, which connects the Red Sea with the Gulf of Aden and beyond. This is to support Iran in this way. He said both commercial and military ships would be blockaded in this case. So, if such a blockade really happens, it will become a global catastrophe. The Bab-el-Mandeb Strait is a strategically important sea route between the southwestern tip of the Arabian Peninsula, where Yemen is located, and the northeastern part of Africa, where Djibouti and Eritrea are. About 12% of all global maritime oil shipments and 8% of the world's liquefied natural gas pass through this strait. Its blockade would deal a serious blow to energy markets and logistics, especially for countries that depend on supplies through the Suez Canal. I should add here that through the Strait of Hormuz, which is on the other side of Saudi Arabia, that is, on the other side of the Arabian Peninsula, another 20 or 25% of the world's oil supplies and about 30% of liquefied natural gas supplies pass. So if you add up all these figures, as you can imagine, blocking both straits could simply drive up prices for everything around the world. And it's important to note that the Houthis have already started charging for safe passage in the Red Sea. This was reported by The Telegraph, and according to the publication, these bribes bring the group multi-billion-dollar revenues. Such a scheme may be attractive to ships stuck in the Persian Gulf. And, I'm more than sure that many tanker owners would be willing to pay the Houthis just to get their vessel out of this region. Well, because these ships, just a single vessel, costs anywhere from $20 to $200 million each. That's why some are willing to give the Houthis some money, a bribe, just to get their ship out. Iran has long supported the Houthis, who control northern Yemen, particularly by supplying them with weapons, drones, and intelligence. In addition, the Republic uses Yemen as a platform to put pressure on Saudi Arabia, avoiding direct military confrontation with Riyadh. This is the very same proxy force, meaning there is no direct confrontation, but through the Houthis, Iran is effectively attacking the Saudis. And here's an important point. We've actually already discussed this in previous episodes. On March 11th, it was reported that ships, tankers, and oil carriers began moving en masse from the Strait of Hormuz, which is blocked by Iran, to the Red Sea in order to load up with Saudi Arabian oil. We were talking about roughly 30 supertankers heading to the port of Yanbu. Each of these tankers can hold at least 2 million barrels of oil. At the same time, in order to enter the Red Sea from the south, these tankers have to pass through the Bab-el-Mandeb Strait. And the thing is, Saudi Arabia built its oil pipeline overland to the Red Sea precisely to avoid the threat of the Strait of Hormuz being blocked. And many experts, myself included, have said that Saudi Arabia has a great solution. They generally export about 10 million barrels of oil per day, or rather, they produce about 10 million and export about 7 million barrels of oil. And as a rule, all these shipments went through the Persian Gulf, then through the Strait of Hormuz, and then into the ocean. But Saudi Arabia has an oil pipeline to the Red Sea, across the whole country, and through this pipeline, about 5 million barrels of oil can be transported. So, in fact, this trade can be rerouted, and Saudi Arabia has started doing this. They were like, okay, the Strait of Hormuz is blocked, we'll load and ship this oil through the Red Sea. And now the Houthis are saying, listen, we'll block this route too. And then oil exports from Saudi Arabia will simply be blocked, completely. There will be no routes at all. The Strait of Hormuz, which accounts for 1/5 of the world's oil and gas supplies, was blocked after the start of the US and Israeli military operation on February 28th. Iran announced the closure of the artery for Americans and their allies, emphasizing that not a single liter of oil will leave the region while airstrikes continue. Moreover, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps threatened to attack any vessel that tries to break the blockade. On March 14th, US President Donald Trump called on China, the United Kingdom, France, Japan, and South Korea to join in protecting the Strait of Hormuz, specifically by sending warships there for joint patrols. Although Trump stated, quote, "The United States will powerfully bomb the coastline and constantly destroy Iranian boats and ships. One way or another, we will soon make the Strait of Hormuz open, safe, and free." And in this context, I want to share with you material from The Guardian, which directly states that a war against Iran and its economic consequences could deal a serious blow to US President Donald Trump. And here I can say with full confidence that Donald Trump is still full of enthusiasm after the capture of former Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro. The swift operation to detain Maduro not only gave Trump control over oil and important mineral resources, but also allowed him to put pressure on the Cuban government, creating the prospect that the US could overthrow the communist regime in Cuba, which has been irritating Washington since 1959. Trump is confident that his joint operation with Israel against Iran will be just as successful, swift. The barrage of Iranian missiles and drones aimed at Israel and Iran's Arab neighbors did not shake Donald Trump's belief in his victory at all. A winner, regardless of how he defines that victory. Trump still insists that short-term oil prices, which will plummet rapidly when the destruction of the Iranian nuclear threat is over. This is a very small price to pay for the safety and peace of the United States and the world as a whole, although this price is getting higher and higher every day. And finally, let me remind you of one very important and telling episode. Since that year, Donald Trump gave the order to start bombing the Yemeni Houthis, here in the north of Yemen. A month later, he stated, quote, "The Houthis have informed us that they no longer want to fight, and we respect this desire and will stop the bombings. They say they won't attack our ships, and that's exactly why we attacked them." So basically, Trump declared victory. A year goes by, and these very same people defeated by Donald Trump, the Yemeni Houthis, are threatening to block the Bab-el-Mandeb Strait. I'll leave it at that. Share your opinions and conclusions in the comments under this episode, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, and don't forget to like. Also, if you found this episode interesting and useful, you can support the work of this YouTube channel with your donation or your subscription. All the links and details on how to do this are in the description of this video, or you can follow the link. I will be grateful for any support you can give. That's all for now. Take care. Goodbye, everyone.